Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is the Earthmaster out here. Finally made it to the weekend. Well, just about the weekend here. It is Friday, January 17th, 2025, 9:51 a.m. That's California time here. Latest activity on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 4.2 earthquake here, hiding out in a green flag somewhere. Got some further activity stirring up here across the Ethiopia region. Where is that latest earthquake? There it is, down there across the Java Trench, hiding underneath a cluster of earthquakes today. The Ethiopia rift boundary here is showing a little bit of further activity, as noted on the map with a fairly recent 5-pointer there. Not being reported by the USGS map yet. They're only showing a number of earthquakes from yesterday. This is in that same region that's had a pretty good cluster of earthquakes here across the Great Rift Valley. This is eventually going to be filling in with the ocean water out here. Be a nice little separation here between the area to the east and the Africa continent there. Obviously, in due time, doesn't happen immediately, but it is a forming rift zone. It is rift zone, and it's forming quite nicely there with a bunch of earthquakes. And when you get that thinning, so to speak, here of the lithosphere, obviously you get a number of volcanoes across that region as you thin the crust and magma pushes upwards. That's what's taking place out there. No new update on any volcanic activity. 149 earthquakes here in this sequence of events, most likely due to some type of magma intrusion occurring at depth. But again, nothing has changed there in terms of the volcanic statuses. Obviously, there across that rift boundary, see a number of volcanoes that have formed. The two of interest right now, of course, is going to be the Fantel and the Dauphin volcano, where we're seeing this ongoing earthquake swarm and some type of obvious magma intrusion down below. So we'll continue to watch that. Nothing, like I say, nothing changed yet, but just still seeing some earthquake activity out there. All right, so far as the largest quake here in the last 24 hours. Looks like it's going to be a 5-pointer out here across the Philippines area just after midnight. It's going to be this quake here in the blue circle around the Philippine Trench. Not really deep, just a fairly shallow one there at about 6.2 miles there underneath the region. For the west coast, go ahead and zoom in here. See what we got up at the Cascadia subduction zone. A number of earthquakes up here from yesterday. Looks like there was a couple more today as well. At least one earthquake today. 2.4, very shallow earthquake activity. This has been a region of interest here recently because of all the elevated earthquake activity and strain that's being applied out here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Now, any type of tremor activity we see out here tends to lead to further escalation of earthquake activity, letting me know that it's pretty well stressed in this region. Yesterday, a handful of earthquakes, or tremor, I should say, bring this back up, the tremor map from yesterday, showed about 124 epicenters here of tremor, mostly up in Washington, Oregon. There is a little bit here in Northern California into the deeper areas, about 35, 45 kilometers deep into the subduction zone underneath this area. So any type of tremor activity appears to be straining the region up here. Sometimes we'll see deeper quakes, but these last couple ones there have been relatively shallow surface quakes there because of the force that's being applied out here against the southern end of the Cascadia. We'll continue to keep an eye on that for sure. Couple smaller quakes out here along the Macama Fault. It's going to be a Coast Range fault here, a little 1.7. San Francisco area, pretty quiet, aside from a number of earthquakes there. Off of the Hayward Fault, looks like it's going to actually be on the Calaveras Fault Zone here, southern end. Nothing big, just a couple smaller quakes. Just after midnight, a 2.8 came into this area around the Calaveras Fault Zone. Number of aftershocks in the area. Further out and about here in the southern area of California, let's see here, really nothing big 2.8 near Kettleman City on the west side of the San Joaquin Valley. Aside from that, generally small microquake activity out here today across Southern California. No swarming going on, no unusual activity for now. Nevada, Utah still getting their typical earthquake activity. Idaho, little cluster going on up here following a 3.2 yesterday. Doesn't look like we had anything else overnight, just some earthquake activity from yesterday. A quick glance here at Yellowstone. Let's see what we got for the Yellowstone overview. It is Friday, goodness. Not a whole lot happening out here on the Yellowstone graphs. There's a 3-pointer there from yesterday showing up on Yellowstone, but that's in Idaho. Not a whole lot of localized activity. Otherwise, we would definitely be noticing it. Some of these other darker blue events here are wind events. These seismograph stations here are often exposed to the elements, and the wind and snow and whatnot, ice, can be blown around up there across northwestern Wyoming this time of year. In the summertime, when they get those thunderstorms, we really see them. We really see the thunderstorms show up there on the seismos. The thunder and the sometimes hail that happens up there really makes a signature on the seismograph stations. Pretty neat to look at, but it's not anything of earthquake or volcanic activity. Okay, Texas oil fields still getting hit out there quite a bit. Nothing new out there. It's just going to continue there for quite some time. Also, a little earthquake there from yesterday around the Tennessee region being added in early this morning, but that earthquake from yesterday. Let's see, Alaska region, a handful of earthquakes here in the last 24 hours. Some noticeable uptick here. Even today, looks like a 4-pointer stirring up along the subduction zone here of the Aleutian Trench. The latest, a 3.0, way up north. In general, this whole area has been quite strained with a lot of advancing earthquake activity further northward. Got to watch this region right here. And I know it's got some historical earthquake activity in the region there for large-scale movement, but it's been a little while. And normally when things start to strain up here across the Alaska area, we've got to watch this region of the Aleutian Trench. It's a major subduction zone that can produce some big mega quakes. There's a rift boundary, seeing some activity. Java Trench region, pretty active over here so far today. Just looks like generally a whole bunch of smaller quakes spread out. No major quake activity for now, but things are definitely on the move in that area. Japan, fairly active, but a lot of this here from yesterday. Let me see here. What do we got? Yeah, the 4.7 is one of the latest quakes here across the Izu Trench. Still got to watch this area right here, the Kumano Ridge, the Nankai Trough area. This is a prime suspect here in a future large earthquake. It could happen here at any given time. It's been under quite a bit of strain recently with all the earthquake activity around it and pushing up against it. And it's been a little while since we've had a last big earthquake out there on the on that subduction zone. And it's probably getting close here to being overdue, so we got to watch that region pretty closely. The Nankai Trough there, capable of producing some big earthquakes, exceeding the 8.0 range. Nothing going on across New Zealand for now. Big island of Hawaii. Let's see what we got going on out there real quick on the webcams, Summit webcams here. Still active out there. Goodness. As of 7:50, that's just about 10 minutes ago, Hawaii time. Got some fountaining going on, although it looks like it's maybe a little bit less than last night. Still continual, though. And that could obviously, stay in that fashion there for a number of days. There is a good amount of magma underneath the area that's been building up for quite a while. So we'll continue to watch that. It doesn't look like there's any other escalation going on out there across any of the rift zones in terms of earthquake activity and whatnot. Earthquake activity fairly minimal for now. All right, let's see here. South America, typical down there on any given day, nothing major. Let's go ahead and check out space weather. Things are happening. They're about ready to happen out here. Getting a number of large M flares here since last night. I knew that was coming. Near X flare from M7.4, it looks like, is the maximum observed flare. And that is off of a rapidly growing sunspot here. Going to be this region. Let's see if Kevin's got a shot. Yes, he does. Of that near X flare, M7.4 from 3964. That's a sunspot area that's really popped up and grown here over the last 48 hours from pretty much nothing. So that still harbors some potential for some strong flares, even some X flare activity with an elevated threat here at 30% chance. M flare at 70. When things start to crackle and sizzle like this, that's when things they could really pop off here in terms of the X flare activity. And as you can see over the last couple of days, it's really advanced here, more so in the last 24 hours. So we'll continue to watch a number of sunspots. 3964 here. Getting a lot of intermixing here in between these main core boundaries. And that's a sign of very complex activity. And, obviously we could see some X flare activity from that region. Not so much over here. Maybe from this region here, we're getting some advancement going on, and a number of sunspots up here in the northeastern quadrant that really not super impressed with, but I would keep an eye here on this one and this area down here for some stronger flaring while they're currently facing the Earth. Beautiful sunspots. If you got a solar telescope, a telescope with a solar lens on it, obviously you'll be able to see the sunspots out there. And they're large, definitely some big ones. This is a big area as well, but in terms of complexity and any type of major flaring activity, just not gonna happen here from 3959. We'll keep an eye on 61 here and 64. No major roars in the forecast for now. We'll see how this plays out. Thunderstorm activity limited here to the south, a little bit in Oklahoma and Arkansas as well. Just some general thunderstorm activity today. Really not expecting any major severe weather from the moisture that's in position today. A lot of cold air coming behind that, but yeah, it is winter still, right? Maybe on tap to see some snow and ice down there across the south here this time as we head towards early next week. A lot of snow being potentially forecasted there across Louisiana, Texas. Goodness, even some ice involved in there as well. So we'll have to watch that as we get a little bit closer to that time period. And then after that, well, it looks like patterns start to shift up a little bit here with maybe some rain and even some snow there across areas of the southwest and Southern California as well. Pacific Northwest getting back in on the mixture of heavy rain. I'm sure hoping for a return pattern of the wet weather here for Northern California. Right now the models aren't hinting at anything major, but they are showing some type of pattern change out here. So hopefully we'll get things back on track here because February, pretty much got February and maybe March here for a hope and chance to get caught up here in our rain season because it's been an awfully dry January. As far as any close approach asteroids go, we'll give these a quick glance. Looks like today a 58 foot. If it was this big, we would be in trouble. 58 foot house size asteroid coming in within about 500,000 miles there, it looks like today, but even so, that's fairly safe. All these other ones are fairly close, including the stadium size asteroid. Goodness, that is a pretty big one. All right, live look here at the seismograph stations. A couple earthquakes here in Southern California, China Lake. Aside from that, we'll continue to keep an eye on things here today. Definitely, like I say, this northern end here of California been quite active. You just never know when the big one's going to hit out here, folks. So just got to be prepared. All right, have a good one. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later. And stay safe out there. Enjoy the Friday.